I would like to take a couple of minutes in introducing Mr. Himanshu Gupta here for us. Mr. Himanshu Gupta has over 25 years of experience in IT leadership, digital and hybrid transformation and delivery management across Fortune 500 clients. He is currently Director of Software Engineering at Kyndryl, IBM India, leading hybrid cloud projects, innovation labs and architecture as a service. Key achievements of Sir could include large-scale application modernization for Philip Morris, multi-cloud automation for Johnson Controls, and cost-saving patching services for TD Bank. Previously, Mr. Himanshu Gupta has managed global automation and transformation programs at IBM, including Lloyds Bank's multi-billion dollar cloud automation deal and hybrid cloud setups in Europe. Sir has also managed cross-geo project teams for BFSI, telecom and industrial clients. His previous experiences could include the Deputy GM IT at Nandi Foundation, where he drove system modernization and automation. Sir holds an MBA and BBM from Andhra University, an LLB from Osmania University, and is currently pursuing a postgraduate program in AI for leaders from the University of Texas. His major skills include hybrid cloud automation, program management, digital transformation consulting, and leadership. Mr. Himanshu Gupta is also certified on GCP, trained on AWS, and is an IBM certified sales advisor. Today, we will have Sir speaking on platform engineering to developer experience, how cloud is redefining ways of consumption. Sir, it is our pleasure to have you today with us. I hand over the session to you.
My team members. I'll introduce, don't worry.
We also have Sir's team with us who will be helping us with the hands-on session as well. Sirs, we welcome you too. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi team. Everyone had lunch?
Yes, sir.
Don't sleep in the session. That's my only request. If you're feeling sleepy, raise your hand. We'll do something different. Okay? Now, it's very difficult for you to see the screen. So if you want to change your orientational chair to point towards the screen, it will be good. Otherwise, either your neck is going to pain, or I don't know what else. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we doing today? When ma'am, Saraswati ma'am, actually the neighbor, told me to find time for this session, I was pretty nervous because if I talk to computer science teachers, I know the depth of technology you people all have. So it was very difficult for me to choose a topic. So I ventured very clear of the areas which you already deal with it day-to-day life. So I'm not going to talk about software development. Okay? How many boos and bows are coming in? You wanted to see on software development, we will bring it from a different aspect. Okay, but what we wanted to introduce to you is the platform framework itself, because the building block of any computer systems today which you see is the platform which provides you that facility which is robust, fast, seamless, and in most often self-service by you, right? And we'll do some exercise also. It will be pretty interesting, so bear with me. To give a little insight about how the session is phased out, we have a small agenda. I'll introduce you to what we do as a company and us, of course. There was a small bit of Google form which was supposed to go out. It didn't go out, no worries. I'm hoping everyone is having a smartphone today. So you will be required to get into a short survey and we'll then go ahead. I want to know your expectations for the session. It's very important because we need to modulate the session on the fly. With a view of the past, we will look into the future. Because for me, I think it's very important that we don't forget the history when we leap forward to the future. We'll talk about platform engineering as a science, why it's so important and why enterprises are adopting it. Our focus today is to give you as many enterprise-wide practical insights which we have seen over a period of time. So between us, we have like 100 years of experience, right? Between the four of us. I want that sneak preview to be given to you so that you can perhaps better guide your students and with little hope get something rubbed off from our experience. We'll touch about the modern trends. We'll touch about why we have DevX as a huge topic, why developer experience is more important. But one thing for sure, if you think you have better ideas than what is being presented here, do not hesitate to say yes, we have known it, so that we'll skip those faster, right? So that we can show you how things work and maybe get you to try some things out. So very open for moving this faster. Before I go, I want to scan this. Okay, now this is going to be there for 5 minutes. Please scan it and start filling the form. Okay, we have 32 responses in the system. Anyone still pending? All done? Cool, thanks. So this is very important. I'm just going to flash this. So that it helps us. Right. So I think predominantly like 32% have opted for less theory, more hands-on practice. Okay. Take it. Students are more associate professors. Enable scalability. Okay. Wow, that's very good. Someone has really understood platform engineering. A major role in the JD to send and receive data as send and receive messages. They are backbone of the product for which. Okay, I heard about cloud infrastructure. Okay, your understanding of platform engineering. I am very keen in understanding who has those green marks. Those would be my volunteers for today. People who have very good understanding of platform engineering and hands-on experience. Great, but around 37% have heard about it, and around 37%, so almost close to 74, that is 3/4 of the class is ready to explore more, which is good, right? Okay, so 6% have NA, but there are some who have used software development experience, Python, Django, Power BI, web. Okay, good. Also, this is a very interesting pie diagram. Around 15% have some cloud subscription. Those of you who do not have cloud subscription, would you want to subscribe to the free tiers of AWS, GCP, or Azure? Today, we'll show you how to do it. It will be good. Each of these cloud providers give you free subscriptions. They are either they like give you $200 credit or something, and you can play around with it. Not much, but you can test your knowledge on all these. So we'll show you how to do it. You may want to keep your credit card handy because they will ask, but they will only deduct $1. But be sure that you do not use paid services and you cancel or close the credit card account. Otherwise, sometimes if you have not secured your cloud accounts, it can be very easily hacked, and suddenly you are staring at multi-million-dollar bills. It happened with my colleague. One fine day morning, he got a message that he owed 2.5 lakhs to AWS, and he hadn't used it. So we'll also talk about the security and how to maintain your subscription, right? That's very important. Then I'm also glad that quite many of you have GitHub account, because if you are doing software development, you better have a GitHub account. Right? I'm seriously worrying your necks are going to pain at the end of 2.5 hours. So you may want to just shift. I'm not going to give anything for you to write. This is not a lecture which is going to, you have to make notes. Don't worry. It's all common sense. Understand it. Okay. So shift your chairs. Seriously. Otherwise, yours seriously will get fatigued out. Okay. So with this out, we'll just go back to where we are. Okay, so who we are. Kyndryl is a relatively new company. Why I say relatively new is that while we have a 120 years of legacy, we kind of spilled off from IBM almost 5 years back. We are now wholly owned IT company, independent of our parent company IBM. So I won't even call parent company. But now we are fully on our own. We are a small company with around 85,000 people worldwide. Why I talk about small company? Because when we compare our competitors, they are in lakhs. So we are still under lakh. We are present in around 60 odd countries. And in Hyderabad, we have roughly 3,500 people working for various global companies. I've been with IBM earlier for 17 years and now with Kyndryl, so overall with 25 years, which I already talked about. Let me also introduce my colleagues, Prashant. Prashant is a veteran. He has worked in many companies like Wipro, Microsoft, TCS, CMC. In fact, a railway modernization project for the South Central Railway, when he was in CMC, he did it. So he comes with amazing experience. I'll ask upon him to come upon and give a little more introduction on ITSM when we come to that. So he'll give practical insight into that. We have Vinod. Vinod is our automation expert. He loves DevOps. He will talk about developer experience. And we have Shrikant, who is totally in charge of our internal labs. So all our projects which go to the client needs to be tested internally, and he manages those labs for us. So it was very important that he also came here because we have a lab setup and we will try to replicate some of it here. We may not be very successful because it's running on free tires, so, but we'll try whatever it is. Okay. All right. I'm not going to spend more time on it, right? So this is the looking in the past, right? What is the infrastructure you are working on? All computers, right? The storage attached. But then after this comes the whole aspect of why we are talking about this. Now, there is a huge amount of delay which happens when you request for a particular services. And what I wanted to do is a small exercise, right? Maybe we can have two halves, and one half can come, or you elect your representative. I need 2 volunteers from each of the sides. We would like to mimic your specific organization. So let's say you come from a college, you come from an Osman University, you come from a HCU or IIT, where you have requested for a new computer to be assigned to your lab with requisite software to run a ML load, maybe a GPU. I don't know whether you have GPUs in your labs? Anyone? Yes. Some of you have, right? So you have requested. I want you to map the time taken from the time when the need was felt to it being available for you to start practicing. If you can volunteer, maybe 1 or 2 volunteers can come over here and explain us what happened during that time. Now, to give a parallel, why we are trying to do this is something which Six Sigma lean process defines. It is called the value stream map, which says that actual amount of time to execute any request is much smaller than the duration of the request. You will agree to that?
Yes.
Right? Which is kind of seen in the bottom chart, right? So there is a lead time to process the supply chain. For example, like you place a request, a purchase order for a new computer, a new server, or a new network device. But actual fulfillment of that is not much, right? So you basically break it down into two halves. The production lead time could be X and actual processing time could be Y. So would you want to take some exercise and do this on the board? Any two volunteers? Exercise. So it's very simple. Imagine your institution. You have placed a request for a new server with XYZ software. How much time did it take? Or if you don't want to come up, let me know, I'll start to write on your behalf. Anyone want to start? Come.
It's okay.
Come.
It's okay.
So your clue could be this, right? So you place a request and how long did it take to get fulfilled? Simple.
So you requested for a server. How long it takes for you to get it ready for you?
What happened? Let's say.
A system.
Physical mode or cloud?
Yes.
Physical.
Physical it would take about 3-4 days.
Hey, hero. This is Bhavans. Cash, go to the market and buy and come home.
At least 3 weeks.
Okay, so just think that you're
6
having
months, 1 semester before we have to put in a request.
Okay.
Yeah, you write down the step. How will you get?
So what happens?
What happens the procedure?
First we write a letter for the principal about we have a requirement for the system
Right.
and the need for it
Right.
and how many systems we need.
No, that's about our server. He's talking about.
Anything.
Anything.
One example we take. Okay. What else would you give as a requirement? Would you give operating system?
Yes.
What software it has to have?
Yes, sir. GPU, how much? What is the
Capacity of
Sir, what is the system
Specifications.
requirements?
Specifications.
Specifications.
Configurations.
Yes,
Configuration.
and mobile and AWS connection.
Is it also a
Why only AWS?
Any one of the
Cloud service.
cloud services
Why?
which is giving good
Right
pricing.
now, just
Okay,
write down
let's
all
say
these
this lab you're setting it up,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So
Yes.
let's say we are buying 10 computers and we are also taking the Wi-Fi and cloud services also
Right.
for the LPG.
Would you want to have OS on this or dumb terminals?
We are going to buy one.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Whatever, it needs an operating system. It could be a Ubuntu, it could be Linux, it could be Windows, it could be anything, right?
Yes, sir.
Then what would you need? You would need antivirus.
Yes, antivirus.
Why would you need one?
Free one.
Whatever, it's free. You need some Defender or antivirus.
One antivirus.
Then you would need some middleware or databases.
Database. SQL. MySQL
Whatever.
free one.
Whatever. You need something, right? Then you need some applications.
Yes. Applications like Power BI,
Yeah. VS Code.
VS Code. Yes.
Right? All this will be whether the health of the system is good or not. So how do you monitor it?
By resource person.
So there will be a lab assistant who would
Yes, sir.
check whether it has hard disk which is full or not full. If it is full, how to clear it up,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes.
So all that will happen. Then what will happen? AMC would be there.
Yes.
Otherwise, if not, the parts will go, right? So that happens. So now let's move to cloud. You have used this system to now subscribe to a cloud.
Yes, sir.
The first question your HOD should ask, why do you need all this configuration if you are anyway going to cloud,
Yes, sir.
right?
We may be running ML projects locally. Then we
Why
may
will
be
you need,
deploying
why
it,
would you need to run ML projects locally?
so that we can catch the local issues that the client may get when he is installing the model and trying it out.
That
Or
you do it online also, right? We have logs. So why would you need locally? This is very critical for you to understand. For everyone to understand. Others don't start talking about kitty party.
Because if we run everything on the cloud, we would require higher bandwidth.
That also is possible. You can get today 1 TB of bandwidth.
It's become cheap, no?
Why would you need local? Think. It's a good answer, I am saying. But what is the motive to run local?
We want to have an office ambience.
Not exactly.
Office ambience can be recreated here with VDI.
Local systems are more reliable.
Are you sure?
Because when it comes to cloud, we are not sure where it is getting stored and whether it is safe or not. But in traditional local systems, we have whatever data we require is with us on us.
Let's say you are developing a great program. Bhavans is amazingly developing an innovative IT application, and it has the entire hard disk has been stolen, in which the program is running. What will you do? Are your doors as secure as what AWS provides? So your security is now out of the window. What is the reason why you would run things locally? We'll touch on it. Control, you can have it on AWS, on GCP also. You can create your own organization. He talked about a nice concept of data residency. You can specify today in the cloud where your data resides, right? So why local?
So we will first test, we will load the data first into our own systems and check if it is working properly for every system configuration.
Absolutely right. But why local? You can do that same there also. You can test everything. In fact, you can test much better in cloud because of the features which cloud providers provide you than locally. If you have to run a LLM model local, confined, you will have to run an SLM. Sorry? Translates into?
Said more about security.
Translates
That's what cost, sir.
Yeah. Somewhere now we are now talking about
Cost.
I'm sure it would have come out from reading. Cost. Cost is the only determinant factor, because if you start having all these models interact, the network cost of interaction can become a pain point for your projects, which will ultimately kill your projects.
So for defense purpose, then they run local.
Not required.
They'll have their own cloud.
There are what we call it as the new terms of sovereign clouds. Sovereign clouds are extremely secure, especially for government and defense sector. They are a cloud within a cloud, which you cannot penetrate theoretically. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So what we need to do is, for any decision, whether to go on-prem or off-prem, we need to understand theory of it, right? And platform engineering does that. So let's now look at what platform engineering does, right? I'm not going to read through it. I'm very bad at reading, so read through it and I'll talk about two different concepts which is coming. Anyone want to volunteer and read the definition? Anyone? No one? Okay. So platform engineering is the discipline that empowers organization to ensure infrastructure availability, facilitating the rapid application deployment. Okay. Through the adoption of automation and DevOps practices. Right? This adoption is typically achieved by providing self-service mechanism that implement infrastructure as a code, combined with standardized software technologies across organization software development lifecycle. Okay. So what we are trying to now introduce a couple of concepts here. What? Automation, DevOps, IAC, standardization, self-services, right? Some of these concepts are there. I am sure each one of you have come across this, are practicing it, right? Now what we will try to now do little deeper is, how does this visually translate into, right? What is automation? How do you automate your environment? why it's important from a platform engineering point of view. Any guesses?
Redundant tasks.
Correct. You can patternize your behavior. What are patterns? It's basically things codified in a, so you write functions, right? Why do you write functions? So it's easier to call that because it's pre-coded or pre-run. You can easily call it sending parameters. Same thing happens for platform availability, right? Irrespective of what kind of platform you're talking about. It could be AWS or cloud platform, it could be on-prem platform, right? But what is important is from an organization standard point of view, they look at it as a more cohesive feature. Why enterprise look at a more cohesive feature? Because they would not want to spend, I mean they don't have lab technicians, right? Can they afford that each floor has a lab technician because organization like 200-300 people may still have 1 or 2 system administrators, right? But if you are scaling up, that person, and especially when the enterprise starts going beyond boundaries, they cannot have people to travel for fixing up your laptops today. Everything is remote today, but still you need a person to fix it, right? So the organization will invest time to automate things. Do you have a library of softwares available in Bhavans? You have a library of software where, let's say you have a portal. After you are issued a laptop, you go to that portal and download necessary software to make your work happen faster. Do you have the feature?
Yeah, the programmers actually have some centralized
Library.
whatever is required for the graduation program.
Right. Now each of the graduation program, or is it open to your students? Perhaps yes, perhaps not. If it is not open to students and only to faculty, do Bhavans have a kind of a ring fence that certain set of faculty can only access certain set of programs, not everyone? Perhaps not. Perhaps yes. I'm not trying to question or say it is good or bad, but I'm saying these are the consideration when we start looking at an organization per se. What's available for me, for my use, depending on the role which I'm executing, may not be required for him. If he also starts to download it, then your licensing costs spiral, right? So when you're in an enterprise situation, you need to look at many such things which are basically driven from a aspect of the IAM rules, right? Why a person is requiring. It's actually starting with a deny rule, and it is enabled only when there is a request placed. That's the ITSM process which Prashant is going to speak about. Right, so your IAM comes here, your DR is an important aspect of any setup. How many of you have done a DR planning for your labs? Let's say today there's a bomb which falls onto this building. What happens? Anyway, a lot of bombs are going on, Operation Sindoor and all. Right? One bomb comes and falls here. What happens? Where will your lab go? Holiday. Nice answer, right? And holiday for many weeks, because 6 months ma'am is saying for new procurement. Yeah? Yeah. So if this building collapses, and for enabling Bhavans to continue from tomorrow, they need to have a planning in place. They should have at least a building which can house 20 computers with necessary software. Because ultimately, who is your client? The child who is coming to the school to study. His disruption cannot be forever kept on hold. Correct? So when you start thinking on those, you may say, okay, fine. Now can I plan, instead of having 20 computers in one room, can I bring one more room in another building, shift 10 computers out there. So that is your DR planning, right? So that in an event of a mishap, you are at least starting with some critical secondary features. Now this was a very interesting story which I came to know when I started my journey in platform engineering. AT&T. How many of you have heard of AT&T as a company, right? A big US company. They used to have a mobile DR setup. In the sense, within US, their entire data centers were anonymously moved across the country. No one knew their location. But in case their main data centers would go off, they can stop these trucks. They were like big trailer trucks. They would park it, plug it in, and start operating from remote places within a span of 11 minutes. That big truck. See their planning. Because it had critical infrastructure of the US, right? The telecom is most critical. So that's how platform engineering was important. Security, we talked about security. Now, how many times do you patch your systems? I'm sure your system administrator would be doing it, right? New patches would come, you would do it. Otherwise, vulnerability would seek in. Vulnerability would seek in when we need to see if unauthorized access or things happen. All this, what we are seeing, is automated in an enterprise scenario. Right? What is DevOps? Rapid. Everyone has worked on DevOps technologies? How many of you have played with Jenkins? Show of hands. Git runners? Anyone? No? Okay. So this is a methodology through which you deploy your application faster. Okay. But as we are codifying the platform using IAC, infrastructure as a code, you can also codify deployment of platform through DevOps. Is that resonating with you? We will show what DevOps pipeline looks like. Okay. In fact, if you want, can we show them now? Yes. Okay. So why don't you plug in your system? We'll show you how this works. Right? Now, if you are able to So what we are trying to do is, we'll show you how typically any cloud service looks like. We'll create few virtual machines and maybe Kubernetes environment. How many of you have played with Kubernetes? Container? Anyone? Heard about it? So we'll talk about why we are talking about virtual machines and Kubernetes in following slides. Okay.
Okay, just briefly I will explain, okay, how we have the competing options. Okay, The first thing is, okay, when we are on-prem, okay, so just consider that this is on-prem. Okay, if we want to provision a server, okay, either it is a client operating system or a server operating system, how long it will take? The first thing, we need to identify, okay, what application we are going to run on it, and based on application, we choose the operating system, okay, what operating system we need to have to support the application, and then, okay, based on operating system, we choose the hardware, right? How much RAM it is required, main memory, CPU, and how many CPUs it is required, and also the storage, and how much bandwidth we require if you want to connect that application, okay, from the outside, okay. So either it is a private network or internally we are using, or from outside we are accessing through the public network. So these all dependencies and the requirements, right? So if you want to build that on-prem, okay, it takes, okay, we need to request, right? It need to get approval, and we need to raise the PO, purchasing order, and once it is delivered, we need to arrange a setup, infra setup, and then we have to build. If it is assembled, okay, we'll host the server here and we'll try to install the operating system, then operating application on it, right? So it is a huge process. It takes days to months time, right? The same service, if you are going for the cloud, okay, there are many cloud providers are available. One is Azure, okay, which is a Microsoft, okay, vendor is a Microsoft, and we are having a AWS, Amazon, and we are having a Oracle Cloud, and we are having a Google Cloud. These are the cloud providers, and we are having IBM Cloud as well. So the same thing, if you want to provision a server, okay, in a cloud, okay, the one thing is we can access publicly, or if you want to access the server private network through the private network, that is also possibilities there, okay. But see, when we are deploying the same server on our on-prem, it is taking days to months, but the same configuration server, but there are a set of limitations are available for sure, but one of the service which may here and there fulfill our requirement, okay. So that is also there, and if you want to provision that server, it happens in a minute, okay. The only thing is we need to install the application, okay, but again here we are having a multiple services, okay, SaaS model, so that means directly we are having a application direct itself, we don't need to provision any server, okay. There are the PaaS services are available where we can install, and IaaS service available where we only deploy the machines. So now we want to show how we deploy the server, okay, based on our requirement. Here we want to show the Linux server, okay, Ubuntu server, we want to provision. How long it will take, we'll show that. And the same thing, okay, here we are doing everything manually, but the same thing we can do through the software as well, means automation tools, DevOps tools. Using the DevOps tools, okay, we can do. When you do as a manual effort, so it takes, okay, many people need to be available to do the 100 systems, right? So it takes more time. But when you are having a code, anybody can trigger that job and it can deploy based on our requirement. So now we want to show you how we can do the manual one. The same thing we'll do using a DevOps tools as well. Okay. So okay.
If you have a subscription, you can open it up and follow the same.
So here, this is Azure portal, okay, Azure cloud, okay, and here we are having a many services. So if you go here, so these are the resources which we deploy. These are the services are available on the Azure. So here we can see there are categories: compute, containers, database, DevOps, general, and we are having a network and everything we are having, right? So using the service, we can collaborate and we can deploy whatever we want. Okay, as told, we are having a multi-type of models, IaaS and PaaS and SaaS models. Okay, so here whatever we are doing that now, it comes as a IaaS. So we are deploying only the virtual machine. Okay, so here I am choosing the compute. Okay, so if you see here, there is a segregation as well. Okay, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and the serverless and microservices. There are categories also available. So when we talk about the server, so it comes under infrastructure as a service. Okay, so here we
What's
want
the difference between infrastructure as a service and a platform as a service?
Platform voice.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Covers it in the previous sessions.
Okay, but that's precisely right. What is just infrastructure as a service?
Includes the CPU, storage,
Correct.
RAM, network.
Everyone is clear on this?
Yes.
Right? Why are we talking about this from a managed and unmanaged point of view? Are you aware of it? Have you heard of the term managed services and unmanaged services? Anyone? Fine, we'll talk about it.
So here I am selecting the virtual machine, okay, and just I am creating it.
You explain, you can make it sure.
Yeah. So here we want to create a virtual machine, okay, which is available on the cloud. Okay, so here the subscription model, okay, is available. So when it is a big organization, enterprise level, so what we do is we have a contract with the vendor and we'll get the subscription. But as a normal, okay, if you want to do the subscription, we go for the pay as you go. So we can use our credit cards and we can enroll for the subscription. We can use the services. As a first 30 days, there are some free services available, and after that, everything will be get charged. So and there are services which are available for 12 months as well. Okay, but be careful when you want to enroll as a pay as you go and utilize the services. Be careful. Okay, here we are already having a subscription. Okay, where we can deploy any kind of a service which is available on the Azure cloud. Okay, so here we want to deploy virtual machine. Okay, infrastructure as a service, virtual machine for our own purpose. Resource group here. This is only the segregation, like a folder structure, logical. Okay, okay. So yeah, just choose. And the virtual machine name you can give any. And there are locations available where we want to.
So when we talked, someone talked about security, right? And data residency. So this is very important. You can choose where it has to locate into, right? So every company, every region has now new rules. What is the Indian standard called? Anyone? For data residency? New law has come. I also don't know. I was thinking you know. For EU it is GDPR. Anyone heard of this term? A term for all countries which are in European Union which has to subscribe to, pertaining to how the data resides. And in US there are many such rules for different industries. HIPAA being for health, FDA is for food and industry, right? They have their own set of requirements which the companies which are in those industries will need to subscribe to. Correct?
So here we're choosing the location, okay, where we want to have this virtual machine and access it. And when it comes to the zone, it is like a DR kind of thing. Okay, if you are deploying a multiple virtual machines, so it provides a DR kind of feature. Okay, so and here we can select the come down. So here we can select the machine, okay, what kind of a machine you want. Okay, either it is a Ubuntu or Red Hat, Windows, and the Windows we are having a 2019, 2020, whatever the requirement, based on our requirement we can choose the server and we can deploy it.
Just launch one quickly.
Just go for the password.
Right, so as you see, even in manual, you need to know what all details you need to give. Now to a user who is new in your organization, you can codify all this as a configuration file. And you can give it as a one small JSON file, right? So what we'll show very quickly is manual process, and it is tedious. You can miss out because you may not choose availability zone, for example. So if the server has to span 2 availability zones for your DR purpose, one may or may not choose that aptly, or the which availability zone has to be picked up. All that can be driven as a policy, right? Policy as a code. That's the advanced concept of IAC. Right? If you have already done this with your subscriptions or otherwise, we'll skip quickly into the execution through code. We'll go with execution through code.
Sir, is there anything like your zones can be changed anytime?
We can. We can move virtual machine from one zone to another. Yes. There are rare scenarios, but yes. So, in any of the cloud subscription also, you can get what we call it as bare metal. Right? You know what is bare metal, right? The infrastructure, this computer, you can get it on cloud also. That's called bare metal. It will not have anything. We will be responsible for activating it. Right? You have done it?
So yeah, here we are deploying the Ubuntu server, and you know that if you want to access the any Linux server, we'll use SSH, right? So the same thing. And,
So now, parallelly, let's move to IAC.
Yeah.
Let's quickly look at that. Which are various IAC technologies which you are aware of? Infrastructure as a code can be written in what many technologies? Any wild guess? Terraform, have you heard of Terraform? No? So Terraform is one open source provider which allows you to write IAC. Then there are ARM templates. Have you heard of ARM templates? Azure provides what is called the ARM templates. AWS provides what's the equivalent of ARM templates? You know, ARM template equivalent in Azure is
Azure.
sorry, AWS.
AWS is.
So there's something for AWS also which it gives, right? But these are all various technologies through which you can write IAC, right? We can skip this, we can skip this. We can go directly from the code. Yeah. Yeah. So let's execute it via code because I think that's more interesting. Now you've seen the pain of going through manual, right? It is not very simple, not straightforward. Yeah.
Let me explain first DevOps concept and hey everyone, good evening. So what is DevOps? It's a combination of development and operations, right? So why we use the DevOps concept?
Automated.
Yeah. Only automation? How we does the automation?
It is also helping and collaborating and doing it.
It's a collaborative approach, right? So its collaboration means with whom?
Developers and not
Developers
across the
And softwares.
Developers and maintenance.
Maintenance.
Yeah, who will maintain that? Okay. It's a collaborative approach with just between the software development team and IT operations. So why we are using this collaborative approach? Why are we using? Hello? Somebody's phones. Why are we using this
No,
collaborative
no need to
approach?
go to Google.
We will discuss.
To have a seamless communication between the both the teams
Right.
and update each other about what is working.
See, as we discussed earlier, right? See, for example, to get a computer, we need to discuss with our IT operation team to get it done. It takes longer time. So whatever based on our requirement, it takes a longer time. So this collaboration, what it makes us is to reduce the time.
Parallelly development and deployment
Yes.
can be done.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So what it emphasizes, DevOps, what it does is it automates. Okay. Along with we have a continuous integration is another concept.
CAC.
Along with that, and also continuous delivery. So why see all these together called as DevOps. So how automation works? See, for example, let us say you want to deploy, as earlier we discussed, right? We are deploying manually these computers in cloud. So we are using manually, we are giving the inputs and we are deploying our virtual machines in cloud. So how we does in DevOps, right? We will develop one of the IAC code, either Terraform or Ansible or whatever. So we will integrate with our CI. So what it does, basically CI what it does is, it collects this code and returns some tests, okay. It will come later these points, but it will does some tests, okay, validations, executions, everything it tests, and then it pushes that code into one of our shared repositories. That is either GitHub or GitLab or whatever. It pushes that code there. It will be available there. That's it. So the CI does, takes the code, executes some tests and validates the code and pushes into our shared repositories. Then the CD comes into the place. It takes that code and again it checks the security validations and everything. It does some tests again and then it moves our requirement into either stage or production environments. So this is a set of processes to deliver our requirement. That is called DevOps. Everything clear?
Yes.
We will come to the code now. Okay. Thank you. So currently that we are trying to deploy one of the Linux machine in Azure. So we are using the Terraform is a tool that is developed by HashiCorp, which we are using right now to deploy Linux machine in Azure. Is that clear? Okay. So for that, the step one is we need to connect to Azure, right, to deploy this machine. So Terraform will provide a sequence of steps to connect to the one of the cloud provider, whatever we define it, and we will use that provider and provide our details to connect to the Azure or GCP or whatever AWS, and then we will deploy our machines. So the Terraform, the files, the extension of the files of the Terraform is .py. So like .java, .py in our Python code set. So likewise, our Terraform files is the extension is .py. So it starts with the provider. So as I told you that we need to connect with Azure. So that's why I use the Azure provider. So whatever I can't go in deeply right now, but these are the steps that is required. We have to write it in the provider.tf to connect to the Azure machine. In this, the provider, when we execute these codes, right, backend we will store the Azure keys to connect to the Azure provider. We can't show that upfront to everyone, so that's why we are storing in environment variables of the machine, or GitHub secrets, or AWS secrets, or Azure secrets, wherever it is available, and we get called it and we can connect to the Azure. Is that clear? Or am I going speed? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So provider, as I told you that it gets connected to the Azure. Okay. So to deploy our resources, we can call it as resources actually. I am not talking about machines, virtual machines. It is resource. basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to deploy Linux machine. So I have declared the provider.tf to connect to the Azure, and I'm just going to the main.tf. It is the like our main function in our Python or main function in Java. This is the main file for Terraform, which we declared whatever the resource is required for us to deploy in Azure. So currently what I have declared is, so to deploy
Can
a
you
virtual machine.
increase the size? It's okay. Yeah, better. You may want to just remove this part of Explorer untitled. Yeah.
Can you see now?
Yeah.
So like, see, we have discussed about Linux virtual machine that we are deploying in Azure, right? So this is a source of code that we can write in our main.tf. Whatever then, see, it is not required to give the main.tf, the name of the file. We can give anything. So but the resource definition should be in this format, and we have to be deployed in Azure. So these are the variables that we have declared. Variables like nothing like it's like definitions of our variables, like integer in Java or Python, int, like float. Likewise, whatever the required input variables is required to deploy this virtual machine, we will provide those in this resource, so that it gets deployed in Azure. Is that clear?
Network is on. Carry on.
Hi everyone, I'm back. Okay, so to deploy this machine, we have to run only 3 commands. Okay, so that is Terraform init. What it does is it initializes of this code what resources are required and what are the API calls required to connect to Azure, and what are the API calls to be stored in our local or in a backend where we configure. It stores in our local or maybe in backend, and then once we does the Terraform apply is the last command, then it goes and connects to the Azure and it deploys the machine. So it was initialized, and I am just trying to do Terraform plan. So it gives what we are going to deploy in Azure. It shows what are the resources that we are deploying, it shows what are the declarations that we have declared in our files, everything shows here. Sorry, maybe it is slow network, it's time to connect to the backend.
Right, so I think one key aspect of why ISC is very important as a concept for platform engineers is when you are deploying an application or you are working on an application, let's say, right, and you are working virtually on a cloud, that application needs some resources. Will you have time to go and request for that resource? Perhaps yes, perhaps not. So you would perhaps ask the platform team, can you give me a Terraform code which can deploy this application? So you would have a conversation. That person would perhaps code it for you and give you that code. So in your application header, you would perhaps embed this code that before the application actually comes up, the underlying resource would be created on the fly. what it is happening and what is it doing is, it's removing many steps. It's removing steps for you to talk to the platform team. It's removing steps for you to take approvals, because if it is an application which is being deployed on a development environment, not a production environment, you perhaps don't need to go to the HOD and say, hey, can I consume these resources? But let's say an application is for a production system. So let's say example, your mobile banking applications. How many of you have seen a warning saying that your mobile application would be down on certain time because of an upgrade? That is a CD process, continuous deployment process, right? Because at certain point of time, you need to bring down a particular application. But then there are many other features like blue-green deployment or canary deployments, where without any application downtime, you create an infrastructure which is equivalent to what is running in your environment. You just pinpoint your DNS to the new infrastructure and bring down this running infrastructure. Those are also ways of deployment, right? So all these are platform engineering work. Executed.
As I told you, Terraform apply, it goes and apply and deploy our virtual machines in Azure, what we have declared in our main.pl. So also it will ask our approval, because we are deploying through local, it will ask our approval whether we can deploy it or not. Sometimes because of
Okay, if this doesn't work, we'll shift to the new topic.
Yeah.
But tell me one thing, do you do this kind of work in your labs? No? Do you think this is important from a overarching understanding of how platform works?
Yes.
Yes, it is asking for the approval. If you provide approval, then it will go for the deployment.
So in an enterprise, there are a couple of areas which are extremely important. One is who has approved it? Why was it approved? Right? For audit purpose or secondary control mechanism purpose, it is very important. Right? ITL processes, we have gone through some of it. Right? What does service management talk about? Is everything has to be recorded, right? Because tomorrow, if there is a failure or because of a code which has gone into a system causes the application to go down, we would like to do a RCA, right? We need to understand what happened, when it happened, what was the main cause, what was the contributing cause. All this happens in the background, so that the knowledge base of the organization is mature. You feed in back these knowledges, saying that, okay, fine, this is the reason what it happened. Can I code it in future to avoid this human error? Let's say if it is a human error. Right? So when ITSM process is going to be talked about, we will talk about this. Success?
I'll be good. I'll
Now my going ahead is to bring my computer back online.
Yeah, please.
Okay?
I'll give an answer.
Okay. Okay. So we were here, right? Last time when we moved around. Now, there's another concept in DevOps which is called DevSecOps, where security is being built into your execution process. What does that mean? That means, let's say, you're coding. As you would have seen in Vinod's terminal, he had a password given in the code. In DevSecOps, it will be flagged red. It will say that you cannot have passwords which are embedded in your code. So while checking in your software, it will flag it and it will not allow it to be checked in. So that is security built in a small way, right? Example. Okay. We know about all this, very simple, private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, right? Now what we want to introduce to you is why we are talking about IaaS and PaaS. Someone gave a very good example, what is the PaaS service, right? So the IaaS layer is this, the gray part, right? Where you just have the machine, the compute, the memory, storage necessary for you to do it. And then you build on top of it. Operating systems, infrastructure, management agents, then comes your platform management agents, application monitoring agents, and then comes your applications. All these are layered as per the requirement, right? And these are various technologies which is being used. Not going to spend big time on this. Some of the on-prem, predominantly on-prem companies, where VMware, Red Hat, I'm using where because each is now changing the way they are operating. VMware was very predominantly on-prem. It had amazing products which enabled organizations to create massive virtualization layer on their data centers. I had worked at least on 2 projects in which one of the organization had around 25,000 virtual machines. Another had 35,000 virtual machines. Right? And all that could not have happened if you didn't have a backbone like VMware. Other companies are Red Hat. That's another company which has now bought the proprietary of Linux and created another version. Nutanix is yet another company which works on-prem. It is recent, I would say, not as old as VMware. OpenStack. How many of you have heard of OpenStack? Right? If you go to ATAL networks, running on edge systems are running on OpenStack. Now, each of these companies also started to realize that cloud is coming in big way. While on-prem gave companies the feature to deploy and create virtualization of unused compute power, cloud was a game changer, right? And you all know about Azure, AWS, GCP, right? But how many of you have heard about HCI, Anthos, or Outposts? Why do you think these companies have started with these offerings? Any wild guesses? What is Anthos or Outpost? Anyone heard of it? No? So when the evolution of public cloud happened, not many companies started to move their data and compute power on the cloud. But soon they realized, we talked about the concept of costs, they're prohibitive. In one of the clients which we were working, our monthly bill of AWS was $150 million. Predominantly, data warehousing needed a lot of compute to happen. And we were like going crazy with the bills. Companies also started realizing, in fact, the project which we were working on came standstill because we didn't have project money to execute the transformation work for the company. So we had put the project on hold. Of course, this is a problem when we faced with one company, other companies also face the same thing, right? Enterprise started to move their workload back on-prem, saying this is too costly because ultimately their revenue comes from subscriptions. Right? The more you subscribe to services, the more money these companies will work. So companies started to work or are still in the process of moving some of the critical workload back, where large compute is required, large data transfer is required. So these public companies now started to offer hybrid cloud alternative. What it does is, you have a cloud, but then you also have a connectivity which is connected to your on-prem data center. We will bring those within the LAN of the cloud. So the companies could get the benefit of having a hybrid environment. So every company, public cloud company, it became necessary for them to have a hybrid cloud offering to cater to their clientele needs. Right? So that's the reason all these have come about. Okay, so we'll take a tangential break with ITSM. We'll give you also a break after this. But I would invite Prashant to now talk about what is the concept of ITSM, why is it relevant, what has been his learning. Some of the learnings which he has, and we'll all contribute to it, were tremendous, and we hope that some of it will rub off with your experience also. Over to you, Prashant.
Thanks, Himanshu. Hi everyone, good afternoon again. Good afternoon. Okay, so ITSM, it's called IT Service Management. So there are 3 letters here, 4 letters, I mean IT, if you take it as IT, and Service and Management. So what is IT? So what is IT in this room as a layman language? Can someone, the mobile phones you are using, the computers you have, some people are connected to some apps, some people are maybe thinking about Blinkit or something, or Uber. This all is IT, right? Correct? Backend it may be with different organizations, different stuff, all that what we studied some time back. But there is an infrastructure, there is an, but we are, from this room, what if I can say IT, this is IT, what we know. What is service? What is a service? We even in the previous sessions we talked about services. So what is a service? So service is something which the app provides as an output, right? So different apps, everything, whatever is service, it is something a value is giving, right? And the last one is the management. So what is management? Sorry? Yeah, managing services. So maybe the resources, the people, the organization, right? So the IT, I mean to get the services what you need and to manage it is what is called ITSM, IT Service Management. In a simple layman terms. But a service can be different. I mean, when you set up an IT, so what will happen is, suppose you are cooking a biryani or something, hot Hyderabad biryani. So how is it? It is anybody can cook it, or is it something we need to follow some process? Okay. We call it a recipe, right? So there are different people say biryani, but we may not like it. Being a Hyderabadi, we know what is the exact biryani. So there is something called a standard recipe. So the service IT, there someone is giving a standardized processes, procedures, how this IT has to run. So that is what is called is ITL. I mean the process is what we call it. So in this process, how this recipe should be to ensure that we are following the world standards day to day. And what happens is, like suppose we work on some things, and as we work on some things, we evolve. We evolve and try to, there's a new shortcut, tomorrow we find it. So someone will say, okay, no, this is the way we work. We will work in this way, which will help in better services. So we versionize. We get to actually have version 1, version 2, so someone is standardizing the process day to day. So there is an organization and all. So this ITSM is what is mandatory for the companies who are running IT, And in ITSM, then again is the incident management, service request management. There are many different managements they split into this. Like what are the incidents? Incident management. So suppose we run into incidents, right? Suddenly there is an issue, there is a network issue, or there is some other issues. So how these incidents are treated? What we should do to ensure that these incidents are not repeated? What is the impact? So there is a process set of rules. We have to follow that. Similarly, a service request. So there is a new service now. So we were talking about suddenly we are getting into some new machines or new applications and all that. It is a service. We are asking for a new service. So there is a process to have this service into the system. We cannot keep on adding anything to a infrastructure or data center, because if even a small break or small wrong application added, it can down the entire data center. So there should be a process to how to add or how to delete. So that is where it comes into service management, knowledge management. So generally when we do suppose there is an incident, all your at least 10% of your mobile phones are down. We see it differently. If only one mobile phone is down, we see it differently. So how these issues are getting into problems, and problems are how we are able to solve it. What is the procedure to solve it? What is the better way to solve it? And how we capture these resolutions into a knowledge. We make it as a knowledge management database, KMDB we call it. So that tomorrow if similar issues happening, it is not that 10 people are having an issue, 10 people go in 10 different directions. It gives if this is a model, then it is maybe a source of issue is one issue. If you resolve that, all the 10 issues are resolved. Something like that. So this level of knowledge management will provide us the details, and that is how we can follow that. Of course, the change in problem management, any change we have to add, we have to go through the change management process. I think you are aware of the change management process, anyone?
If we are moving from traditional models to agile or something like that.
So anything, any change in infrastructure, any change in the data center, anything suppose this lab, you want to add 2 more machines. So generally, whatever process is said here, it will go into a change process. So we need to go with this process. We need all these things. So it comes in a change. So for the change, what will happen? Maybe additional power cables are required, additional power sockets are required, additional network ports are required. Whatever it is, that comes as a part of this, and the output is there are 2 additional machines, working machines connected to internet. So that is how the change management is what in the data center. Imagine the same thing. There are 25,000-30,000 machines and data centers across recovery sites, many places where we have to follow this. Okay, and that will save us. And there are incidents where the top companies, highly secured, lost in a split because of one small non-production or production change, it impacted. So this is how we have to follow this. And even now, we also have some audits. The moment we say we are aligned to an ITSM process, there will be an audit. Otherwise, other persons will not believe us. Any IT guy. If I say, suppose I am in Kyndryl and I say I am ITSM certified, so implies I am following one. So there will be an audit. I need to go to the company has to go to the audit. There will be people coming from KPMG, Deloitte, and other places, and there is a list of rules and follow. So that is what is we're following this and also getting audited.
So let's try to implement this in recent last 1 month happenings in Hyderabad. What was the biggest failure of ITSM in Hyderabad?
2 days power cut.
That is one. More impactful?
Internet.
How many of your home internet got connected? Disconnected? Almost everyone is impacted. Now can you relate that to ITSM here? See, it's a service management issue with the Telangana government. They were supposed to be giving, or it being an IT hub, can you imagine a situation where there is no internet in your homes? So service management failed miserably.
Failed miserably, yeah.
Another aspect of service management is SLA. Right? You need to have a service level agreement that this will be up 99.99% time. So from all this, can you relate what was an incident in this internet disconnection? Disconnected internet is an incident. What was the problem management for it? Anyone try to research why was it disconnected? So X people died because of touching the wire, live wire, electric wire, not even internet, electric wire, and there was a disconnection happened. But someone has to go, if they have to do an RCA, you will realize that the government has given enough notices to the ISP to tell them that they need to have their own poles, not rely on electrical poles, which some providers adhere to, but a majority of providers didn't adhere to. So government said, let's disconnect. Only then they will realize. What is the knowledge management for all this? Yes. How do we ensure that communication happens properly? How do we ensure that we are telling the stakeholders what to do, what not to do? And if the occurrence happened, how to ensure that the consumers, us, are not impacted? Right? So that all goes into knowledge management.
That's ultimate. And last one, what Himanshu was just saying about stakeholders. That's very important. Right? Yes or no?
Satisfaction.
It's like this, the Secretariat Bridge. It's supposed to, it is not that, actually that is not the bridge is supposed to be. But they missed one or two critical stakeholders. When bridge was off constructed till that time band area, then the stakeholder came and said, sorry, I will not approve. So if you remember,
have you seen that bridge?
I have seen the bridge, it was half only.
Almost for 2-3 years.
Yeah,
It didn't land.
It didn't land, right? Shootings used to happen on the bridge. Anybody knows that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because stakeholder management, they did not understand the right stakeholders. So for us, in a life or in IT or even in life, we should be very clear on our R&Rs, roles and responsibilities. We should be very clear on our stakeholders, the critical stakeholders. So, thank you.
Can we take a quick break?
We'll break?
Tea, yeah. Then come back.
When you should, we'll take a break.
Yes.
Why this evolution has happened, right? So imagine this computer which you have invested. So the head of department has said, okay, 40,000 per computer. So it's given the budget approval. There are like 50 computers here. So for 20 lakhs is the budget for this computer. But is this being used properly throughout the year? Perhaps not, right? Because during college time you will have students who will use it. But what about non-college time? This idle capacity being wasted. So what do you think? Can I offer this computer to someone else? So that in the evening someone else will come and use it. That also can be given because ultimately it's ROI, right? Return on investment. So virtual machine concept started with this. How can I make use of my compute power in times for different teams to consume rather than keeping it dedicated for one particular consumption? That also then eventually led to a concept of containerization. Can I container my apps in such a way that the app will only deploy what it needs rather than whole virtual machine? Okay, any idea? Which company came up with Kubernetes? Any wild guess? No wrong answers. Don't use Google. Sorry? Microsoft? Any other guesses?
IBM.
Kubernetes was a concept of Google. Right? So Google came up with this concept saying that can I create a platform which will allow, see, application runs on a particular environment. If I am giving that environment alone, why don't I need to have a huge virtual machine behind it to be running? That was the whole concept. So when you learn about Kubernetes, you will come to know about the application running. How about the data? Where does that get stored? Because any application would need data also to interact with. So within Kubernetes, there is a persistent volume which has been kept aside, where your data can be picked up. But application will run on Kubernetes. And once the application run finishes, it will release the resource. Then came a concept of serverless, beyond Kubernetes. What is a typical example of a serverless function? Any ideas? This SQL query. It's a function. It's running and fetching a particular data set from your database or a procedure which you write. You are only consuming that when the procedure is running is when you are consuming the power of. So that is an equivalent to what serverless is. Right? So you have Lambda, you have functions in Azure. All these are serverless. Okay? So that's the concept. Now, I wanted to give you a practical example of how complex deployment of any of these systems is from an enterprise point of view, right? Now, this is a typical flowchart. If I may want to take you through that, it's pretty. Sorry. Right. So, what happens first is, let's say you request for a particular VM. You have seen that page which you request. For a managed environment, and we talked about managed and unmanaged. For a managed environment, what does it mean is, if I as a Bhavan school wants to not have such a hard on-prem lab, what they will do is they'll, let's say, subscribe to Google. They'll say anyone who needs a computer environment would go to one of the public cloud offered by, let's say, AWS, Google or Azure, depending on your cost negotiation. And for each of the computer classes, I will have VDIs, virtual desktops, the concept, and each student will be given a login. And when the student is given that VDI, it needs to have what? It needs to have necessary softwares which are available in, which will allow you to run a Python program, or a .NET program, or a C program, correct? All that has to be there, right? So that VDI is a virtual machine in a cloud which has to be managed unless you manage it yourself. Why it is required for someone to manage it? It needs a patching sometimes. A new version of .NET might come, that needs to be applied. A new version of Python might come. Which is the latest version of Python? 2.1? 1.3 has come, right? So you need to have that. So someone has to manage it. That organizations like ours, like Kyndryl, will manage your environment for you, right? But behind the scene, this all happens when a new VDI is created, right? I'm not going to the details of it, but on a very peripheral level, this is a requester. There is a hypervisor team, which could be a AWS, Azure, or Google of the world, or it could be a on-prem. Then there is a tooling team, which provides you that facility of softwares, right? And then typically you will find a team which does integrating all this and gives you as a self-service. So in your admin panel of the head of department, they will have things like how many VDIs can be issued. 200 VDIs. Right? So the class size will be given by the college, let's say. But that input of 200 will be taken by and codified in your program through a team which will be perhaps an automation. Right? And hence all this goes through. Right? So a VDI could be a Linux based VDI or a Windows based. It would have databases, it will have some middlewares, it will have, it may also need to have authentication. Not every student may be allowed to log on. who does authentication, whether the person has paid the semester fees or not. If not, can I stop the VDI? So I can connect various means for a particular privilege to happen. That all can be worked upon.
Himanshu, I want to give an example. Yes. So just an example stand of you guys are hearing about the fully furnished homes, gated communities. So what are gated communities? Amenities, yeah, amenities. So amenities is nothing but a services here. Okay. And would you be doing anything on this amenities, or is it given by the sub-centralized office? Right? But inside, suppose in the gated community, so suppose you are also offering a furnished home and non-furnished home. Right? In furnished home again, apart from the amenities, you are also house is furnished. Correct? You only have to go and stay. Yes or no? Yes. So what here is, there are different types of options available to the end user on what and how they pay. Right? Getting all the services comes with a cost. So as well cost, you will get the services. But inside the home, if you are having everything is furnished home in a gated community, and now you are watching in Netflix. So that is your app, you are watching it. So application, you are only taking an application and seeing it. Rest all is taken care. So that's how you try to correlate the different, what is the automation we are getting in, and how we are, what is our impact. I can only change the channels or change some applications. Rest all is taken care by someone else. I'm not bothered. In some places I have to furnish my home. In some places everything is taken care by other office. So that's a different example how you have to correlate. Yeah. Thanks.
So while you are spinning just one thing, from an enterprise point of view, all this gets into play. Okay. So this was my logical break. I didn't plan for the tea earlier. Now we are going, so you've seen the concepts of platform, how it is spinned up. We are now trying to bring about a concept which is called the DevX. Why DevX? You all are training students to be developers. When they go to an enterprise, has anyone thought about the challenges they face in starting their life in the career? Your students, BCA student, MCA students would go to a Microsoft, for example, right? What happens then? There will be onboarding process. That onboarding process will be where that company will say, hey, this is the standard way of coding. They will teach everything. They will be given a computer. Then they will be given a test bed to play upon, right? No one will give them the access to production department, for sure. No one will get access to production. They will be given maximum a dev environment. If not, they have to develop locally. For locally also, do they have the necessary softwares which will allow them to start coding from the day one? Perhaps not. You will need to send a ticket saying that what I need an environment, a .NET environment. That ticket will have to be approved by someone. They will say, hey, this person is genuinely an employee of your company or not. Does he need this privilege? What all privilege? Will anyone give you an admin privilege to run your computer? No. Right? So, depending on what role you are doing, you will get some privilege. Right? So, the time taken for the software developer to get to a stage where the person is actually productive takes time. And this is varies. Right? Now, if you are deployed on an application, let's say, which is a banking application, which is controlling the ATMs, just imagine the time it will take for that person to get well versed with the banking environment. And then the person will start with, be productive. So, this is nothing which is, this is called the basic cognitive load which a person carries or an organization carries. Now, Gartner, have you heard of Gartner as a company? Right? So, they keep on benchmarking various services, IT companies worldwide. and they have given this hype. Hype cycle is their basic way of predicting what's going to happen in future. Now in this there are two concepts. If you see, platform engineering is almost coming to the peak. What does this mean is, the framework is almost mature. There's nothing much to be done beyond it, right? But there is something which is coming up the hill, which is called the internal developer platform. Now why this is important, and there's a new concept of ITP, is if the young person who is now joining your organization is not given an ecosystem where he or she can be productive, it can become a deterrent for his productivity. You all agree with that? Yes. Right? People will leave. Hey, how much time will I need to wait for it, for computer to be assigned to me? Or hey, how much time does it take for the product owner to come and sit with me and explain me how to do the coding? Hey, the things are not documented in a place where I can read through it and perform. Where do I need to go to launch my application? Where is the virtual machine given to me? There are so many questions which the person will have, right? All this becomes a deterrent. And for an enterprise which is trying to attract talent, if you are not providing this environment, people will leave. This market by next year would touch almost $40 billion of IDP alone. So what does it mean is that 80% of the companies which are progressive in nature will have some means to make the lives of developers easier. That's how this has to be read. I talked about cognitive load, right? What are cognitive load? A very basic theory about it is that three types of cognitive load: intrinsic, extrinsic, externus, and germane. What is intrinsic cognitive load? The ability, my ability to do things within me, right? Is the mental effort required to understand inherent complexity of the tasks itself. How do I break down? I have been asked function. Can I break that function down in a way in my own mind which is easier for me to follow? What are the inhibitions in that? You may not know the ways to comprehend. You may not, if you are not able to understand various subsystems, how it works, right? What is extraneous cognitive load? The mental effort wasted on non-essential tasks. What are non-essential tasks? Your manager will ask, have you got approval to launch this application? He says, I don't know. I don't know the process. So he will be learning the process of getting approval for a software installed in his program. It is nowhere related to the program itself. Correct? You agree on that? And then what is germane cognitive load? Right? This is a productive mental effort that leads to development of new knowledge and skills. It's a good type of load that helps developers create schemas, which are mental models that organize complex organizations, right? So if I am giving you, you have to develop a Python program. What will be required by the developer? What is that functional requirement of the program? What are non-functional requirements? Has anyone drafted that in your life? Do you FRs and NFRs? You may not, but some of you may do it, right? You will need to very clearly tell what this Python program needs to do. It has to connect to 2-3 databases. It has to run some queries. It has to give an output in a certain way, right? But at the same time, it has to have a very nice GUI, right? Those are non-functional requirements, right? So all this are loads which a complex or a computer programmer needs to go through. But from an enterprise point of view, if I have to draw a scenario, what does cognitive load look like? Is something like this, right? Your developer has joined the company. For him, what are the processes for me to require for executing the program? There will be set of trainings which I have to take. Documentations will be perhaps scattered. Someone will say you read books, someone will say you read manuals, someone will say you talk to someone. There is an SME or a senior programmer, you talk to him. Things may not be even documented, right? Then the challenge is, how do you have the shift left secure practices? What does this mean? So when you're coding Python, as I was talking about, are you making sure your system is, your code is not breaking something which is already working? Are you sure that you're not passing on PIs and SPIs? What is PIs and SPIs? Sensitive personal information or personal information, right? Bank account details. Will you code your bank account details? No, never, right? So all that practices, lack of collaboration happens. In a big enterprise, you're not alone developers, right? You will be having 20 other people who will be developing in your technology. We have vendors. Each vendors will have a different ways of coding, right? So collaboration challenges will come. So I'm not going to the various of it, but challenges.
I just want to give an example here. Today we came here. In fact, thanks to so we came with an agenda to present a presentation, right? But believe me, I sincerely want to thank the team here because the moment we entered at the gate, suppose imagine someone takes some 10 minutes of time, understand, write our names, addresses, and take some time. And then we don't know where to go. But here today, there's one person who guided us directly. The gates were opened when we came, and we guided us the way to park our car, and we came here. Once we came here, in terms of process, we are through. In terms of tools, we were through because we did not have any hassles coming here all the way. In terms of coming and connecting here, we don't know what is the security here, where is the switch, where is the LAN cables and all, but the help was given. So similarly, the security, the infra was, we got help. So within no time, our purpose was to start the program at whatever time. Within no time, we were able, because of all this load, which is at that time is irrelevant because our main purpose was to give a presentation, right? This is taken care of. Imagine as a developer, if it is taken care of, how it will be? You only have to go and code. Otherwise, you need to understand where I get the laptop, what is the compliances, security things I need to take care of, other things of SDLC processes, approvals. If everything is taken care of, how much amount of time it is saved? So that's what I was saying.
Right, thank you. Okay, so these are so in order to remove all this cognitive load, a concept of golden path was developed. Now what is golden path? Right? Can I, from an organization point of view, give this as a tile in my desktop? Can I have a page? Let's give an example. How many of you use Zomato or Blinkit or anyone, apps, Uber, right? It's very easy in your mobile screen to click on it because you know that pressing that will invoke a workflow which will take you from A to B. Correct? Very simple. Become very simple. So, to draw a parallel of that in an enterprise solution, can I give us a very easy, predefined, pre-configured path for a developer to start his day's work? And when it comes to the demo, Vinod will exactly show you that. It's so simple, right? He would install an environment for Python in less than half a minute, which earlier perhaps would take 3 weeks for you to do it. Now, so we have seen this bottom pyramid, storage network, challenges. Now there is another concept of where you want to launch your application, right? Can it be launched in a hybrid environment? Can it be launched on a public environment? Not every application may be internet facing, right? Your enterprise CISO would define that. So all this is codified for you and presented to you in a small time. It will have security concepts, it will have frameworks, it will have guardrails, it will have CI/CD behind it. Everything built into it. So that's what we call it as developer self-service. Now there are many frameworks for IDP. Backstage, Cortex, Port, Compass. Anyone heard of these? Okay. Let me ask you, how many of you have heard of Spotify? Very good. Right? How many of you have heard of Netflix and using it? Backstage was developed by Spotify. So when Spotify started developing the app, they had 4,000 developers worldwide. Just imagine the challenge for them to integrate development activities. So they created something called, for their internal use, something called Backstage. Similarly, Cortex, Code, Compass were developed. So there were frameworks which allowed, and for your information, Netflix is developed using Backstage. Right? So they allowed disparate teams which are fragmented all across the world to start contributing to your project seamlessly. And we'll show you today Backstage and how does it look like. We in fact wanted to see if you can all install Backstage and have a software template done. But I understand maybe you don't have enough credit, so we'll at least show you how this works. I'll also touch upon what is secure SDLC, Secure Software Development Lifecycle. Now why this is important, I think all of you would have heard of it. So I'll skip this. Okay. Shall not touch about it. Do you do SASD and DASD? Anyone of you does SASD and DASD in your SDLC process? You heard? So, what is SASD? Static Application Security Testing is SASD, and Dynamic Application Security Testing is DASD. Right? Now let's imagine you are developing an application which undertakes verification of Aadhaar. Right? So you would need to create test beds for it. But how will you create test beds for testing Aadhaar? It will need to hit Aadhaar portal. It will need to have the OTP back. All this test case is through DASD. Right? Okay, so with this major theories done, I will show you IDP. But as we leave, I wanted to touch base upon modern trends and how things are changing, right? All of you have gone through blockchain and all. AI, how many of you used AI? ChatGPT. Right? How many of you use ChatGPT to write application letter to HOD? Or a leave letter? You have used? Very good. Right? So from next time if you get formatted, well formatted question, you can imagine our people are active, right? So there are many uses, and all this time actually we are training the AI agent to be more precise. Because the moment they finish that process, they will say a small feedback. Was this helpful? Yes. Yes or no? Many of them will say yes. That is training, positive training of the LLM model, right? Another concept is low code, no code, which is very much prevalent nowadays because of the difficulties in coding. Now you draw up a VCO diagram. Have you used VCO diagram or the flowchart? Yes. Right? Today there are tools. You draw your flowchart of how the application will need to perform. Behind the scene, the application will write code for you. Total code. Just basis on the diagram. So in your diagram, let's say you say, this is my GUI. It has to have these many inputs. And here is my database connectivity. Here is my middleware. It will write an entire program behind it. So technically, your students in future may not even need to know coding. They need to start understanding the usage of that coding. We had a session on agricultural trends in the morning, right? Yes. So it's so much easier. So what is more important now is the domain knowledge to make these applications work for you. Business acumen is becoming even more important, right? This is perhaps our future, right? The bottom layer would be totally agents. You have a front-end agent, you have a back-end agent, you have a QA.
What is agent?
What is it?
agentic AI, right? Where the agent is taking decision on a particular aspect of execution workflow, and it is deciding on its own. Yes, there would be perhaps human in loop, which will be coded for the initial being, but once you will see that it works, you will let it go. Let's say you will approval of a new hardware computer. So she would have an agent, will say, if you meet this criteria, I don't even need to be informed, auto approval. How many would love to have that? Right? Or she will send to the chancellor and say, auto approval. Never happen. In India, it might not take some time, right? So this is perhaps the future. Now, with this, I am going to ask Vinod to show you how IDP looks like, and then we'll come back to this. So this is how an IDP based on Backstage looks like, right? You have a home screen. You have what all you are worked on, but more than that, let me take you to the golden path. So, as an automation team, we codify this for you. Now look at what all it does. It has a starter code for allowing you to start. It has a best practice for an organization. It has a CI/CD built into the whole ecosystem, right? So let's launch a new application. Which application you would like to work? Okay, Python application, very good. You give some name, and we'll give some initial set of questions which it will be requiring us to launch it in a specific areas, etc. Yeah. Okay, so it asks you preview and then create. Now look at the time lag here, right? Now we are already in a very slow network, so but it has fetched all the base from your GitHub, and in 7 seconds created an environment for you to start working. You are opening the repository and where it is lying. So you will have a GitHub where your code is lying. Go to that. See, he is now test demo. This is the name he has given just now. Your boilerplates are available. Your starting README files are available. It has best practices your organization requires you to follow. It also has your initial app available. All this we codified in less than 7 seconds. You are up and running in a public environment with pre-approvals. Now, if you go back to the application on IDP, let's say there are this application which you are developing already is a part of a larger application. You will be able to see the affinity map. You will be able to see what are the owners, who is the owner of this application, right? What is the security position? Can you see the security posture? Yeah, scorecards may be there. Security insight. So in the sense, is my application secure from the day one? And it will be able to look at everything. Now, if you go into the various levels like code insight you can see the pull request. If it is running on a Kubernetes environment, it can show you that. It will show. It will take some time, but it will show there.
Code insights, it will give you the insights, what kind of language that
which you are
what
using.
percentage that we use in this, and what kind of environment that we deployed here.
Just go to the tech radar. Tech radar, right left. Down. Now the biggest challenge for Saraswati Madam is every time a professor would say, hey, can I introduce a new language? So she said, no, I am going to be having this. I will tell you what can be used as a process, tools and procedures. You go there, you will come to know where I am doing evaluation, what is approved, etc. So tech radar becomes easier. Can you show the leadership view? go to APIs. So any application will use APIs. You can have your own APIs to be published. You can go to your server page, test those APIs, all listed here. Everything is easier for your collaborator to come and start working, right? Then let's go to asset inventory. Everything which you are working on is listed here. This is as per your work which you are doing. You can instantiate that from here, right? You can onboard applications from this platform. So all that is culminating in one single plane. Why this is important? If you, let's say, as a professor, have to have 20 different templates of softwares, you can actually onboard it here and give this template for your students to start work and further branching it out. It's very simple. Rather than you creating new programs every day and for every batch again recreating it. So you can have one IDP install in your college, and as and when students join, give one template to them to start playing with it. It will have pre-configured CI/CD pipelines. It will have pre-configured ways of doing it. Then you can go back to your VS Code or whatever your IDE is to enhance it, but come here and execute it. So it brings down the whole process of development in a single page. Right? So this is where our journey finishes and your journey starts. Right? So we wanted to bring this concept to you to show you what all happens in the background. Because you all are software computer science lecturers and you concentrate on only developing applications, the tip of the iceberg, right? But there's so much thing which happens below and how the industry is evolving. So our effort was that we give you an insight to that, right? We'll stop here to take a quick quiz and then the feedback. Is it okay? Yes. Okay. So any training is not done unless you give two things, right? Let's scan this, and this is something which is self-evaluation. I will not get to see the results. You can scan and do self-evaluation of what all you have understood. It's a nice small 10-pager quiz. Just go through it, and then my last ask of you will be in next 2 minutes. Just take 2 minutes. Once a majority of you have finished, just let me know. We'll move to the last part. Not link? Link failure?
Yeah.
Very good. So, what does it teaches us? All your well-planned things also fail. Okay? Don't worry. Don't fret about it. Not working? Working? Back online. ITSM.
We would like to thank Mr. Himanshu Gupta and his team for such a wonderful and insightful session. Thank you so much, sir, for your interactive sessions. That was really very useful. On behalf of the college management, we would just like to present a memento as a token of our gratitude and request Dr. KVB Saraswati ma'am to hand over the
Please at least join
memento.
Ma'am, can you please? Sir, excuse me. Please. Yeah. Just move here. Just move here.
Okay.
Okay, done.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Sir, one second, please. Sorry, we'll not leave you like that.
You also want to ask
This is only
attendance?
no.
My attendance.
You have visited. Yeah.
बोला था ना
Okay. Sure.